What's up, everybody? Joe Carlton here. Welcome to Aces Up Podcast, episode 29. Took a brief break, a month off. Needed to mentally recharge from hosting a show. I have been guesting on my buddy Steve D'Angelo's channel. We just been recapping the playoff games, stuff like that. So I'm excited to get back on Aces Up, hosting the show. Tonight we have all TSA crew. Host Dennis Michelsen and host John Bush, the professor. We're going to briefly go over the Super Bowl and then get into some ADP, best ball ADP, early 2026 drafts. We're using FFPC ADP, which I have to mention now, it's tight end premium. So that's going to affect the tight end rankings a little bit. But other than that, grab yourself a cold beverage, sit back, and enjoy the show. Man, I feel like I haven't heard that song in a long time. What's up, gentlemen? How's it going this evening?
Going good.
Good to see you guys.
Yeah.
Great to be here, Joe.
Yep.
Awesome. So, like I mentioned in the intro, best ball ADP. We'll identify position trends. We'll give our thoughts on who might be of good value early on, who's slipping, who's going too high, anybody we're fading. We're going to cover all that stuff. But first, we're going to get into the thoughts on the Super Bowl. I'm going to go last on this. I'll kick it over to Dennis. Dennis, what'd you think of Super Bowl 60?
There was a Super Bowl 60.
Dennis.
There was. Oh, well, I won some money on a square, and if Drake May had not fumbled, I would have won $50 more on another square. So I wasn't too happy with the turnover at the end of the game. Let's put it to you that way. But no, this was just a case of one team's superior defense just stymieing the other team. And I thought going in that Mike Vrabel might have the edge in coaching. And what we saw was that old Michael McDonald, I'm amazed that a guy can go from being such a great, soulful singer with the Doobie Brothers and with a solo career, and now coaching and winning wait a minute, that was a different Michael McDonald. Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind. It was a rough performance. Let's put it to you that way. When Bad Bunny gains more yardage than the Patriots did, that's not a good sign.
And Kyle Williams, with the tackle on the streak.
Now that streaker was pretty crazy, because I understand he placed a $50,000 bet that there would be a streaker.
I saw that.
And then was the streaker, won $375,000 and only had $1,000 fine. That's a brilliant man.
Is he allowed to go to any more games now, though?
Probably not, but it was he banked 324,000, I guess. So hey, that's a pretty good cash day, and he's got a great story to tell for many, many years to come.
Wendy saying it's not true.
I'm sure it's not true, but it sounds great. It's a great story. I'm going to
That sounded good, Wendy.
just,
We believe Dennis.
just like the video of the dog going down the ski run at the Olympics is probably AI.
We believe that
I
too.
want to believe it.
I believe it.
My cat says that it was true, that she knows the streaker and it was true. Facebook friend of hers.
Nice. All right. Professor, what about
Yeah.
you, man? What
So
would you
Dennis and I chewed on the metric side. Dennis picked New England. I picked Seattle. I know it was boring and it wasn't, what can you say? I thought New England was in the game a lot more than maybe it would appear at the end. I think it really, when JSN got hurt, I felt like that put Seattle, they were kind of wobbly. And I felt like, hey, this could go the other way. And that they were able to keep it going with their defense, but their offense kind of weakened without JSN. So I thought, for them to repeat, I mean, they got to have something better than him. They need another powerhouse. I know Walker got free, but if Charbonnet comes back, I mean, I don't know. That's next year. I'm sure Dennis says the Chiefs are going to be there instead. So it's all good. But I picked Seattle and was surprised actually how good New England played. And I thought they were in it to the end when it kind of all crumbled out from under them.
Now, I did say, Professor, that if the game was lopsided,
yes,
that it was Seattle that was going to win it. I
Yes.
said, that was
it went under.
Yes, and we played the under, which we barely survived.
Yes.
But yeah, that was that I felt more confident on the under in this game than I did on who would win. But and then during my Super Bowl party for the pick that really counted, I switched over to Seattle because when I heard the crowd reacting in pregame to the two teams, I said, man, this is like a Seattle home game. They're going to be just fine.
Nice. So I agree with you, Dennis. New England, the only way New England was going to win was a very close game, and it was going to take them getting the ball at the end and just having the cookie crumble properly in the fourth quarter, like you mentioned, John. It crumbled real bad for the Patriots.
Yeah.
Well, the story that came out the night of the game, night after the game, that Drake May got a
shot
injection this week. That kind of maybe Drake May just wasn't close enough to 100% to pull it off. And
that's what I'm thinking. The injury was a little bit worse. I thought they were throughout the 2 weeks. I thought they were kind of sugarcoating it to make it seem like it was worse. And in actual reality, I think it was a pretty significant injury. Who knows if he would have missed a regular season game or not? But he definitely didn't look right. They hit him with probably like a cortisone painkiller before the game. I know that when they did that to Tom Brady one time, Tom Brady didn't play well either. So I don't know if it makes a difference or not.
And the other thing, Joe, is people were really like beating up on Will Campbell, and yeah, he had a bad game, but it was because Seattle just read the tape right. And they saw a flinch that he was making, that he was coming up to the line different for a pass play than a running play. That's a rookie mistake. He's tipping off. It's like when you're playing poker with people. You get a read on them. Will Campbell is an excellent player. He hit the rookie wall late in the season, and it showed. His play went downhill in the last couple of games of the regular, and then during the postseason. He's going to be just fine. That's a good offensive line. They just maybe they weren't healthy either.
The offensive line stunk.
They absolutely stunk on Sunday, but how much of that was being out game planned? Because Michael McDonald brought one hell of a defensive game plan. They don't blitz a lot. And, you got, a cornerback coming off the edge because they know that there's no way on the routes that they're showing that they're going to be able to attack quick enough. So the safety's going to be able to handle the coverage. And they dropped, defensive linemen into the short zones. It was just a great game plan on the defensive side of the ball by Seattle. They just outcoached Vrabel. And that's not to say Vrabel's a bad coach. He got outcoached in this game. That's the only time he probably got outcoached all season long.
And Sam Darnold did a good job not turning the ball over too. So we got to give him some credit for that. I mentioned during when I guessed it on the show, if Sam Darnold doesn't have any turnovers, it's probably going to be a problem for the Patriots because the only way they will win in that game is if the defense, gave Sam Darnold some trouble. They got after him. They really didn't even sack him that much.
But they had 3 plays where they should have gotten the interception. They undercut the route. He threw it in a predictable way, and they didn't make.
That was early. That was early in the game. I know which ones
early
you're
in the
talking
game,
about.
and that was a big deal. I mean, they knocked the passes away. That's great, but there's a big difference if they intercept one of those 3, or even 2 of those 3, or all 3. Game has a much different script from that point on. But that's the what ifs of the world. Seattle just played a hell of a game, and they were well coached. Ken Walker is a beast, and it was no doubt who the better team was. And Seattle even beat them on special teams. Not only the kicker, that punter had a hell of a game. When you are making the other team march over 90 yards every time you punt the daggone ball damn near, that's a hell of a day for the special team.
He had like 3 or 4 inside the 5, right? He rolled one right out at the 3. That was the punter did play his ass off. The special teams I was concerned about with the Patriots. Their special teams hasn't been good all year. They have a good returner, but defensively they've been, they give up a good chunk yards and just sloppy. That's the word I'm looking for. Their special teams play has been sloppy all year, so I was a little worried about that, especially with Rashid Shaheed being on the other side.
Well, they won 8 games over the last 2 years combined. This year, they won 17 times. That's a hell of a season.
Yeah, good turnaround. Future's bright. They definitely need to add on to what they got going on, though. They got plenty of salary space. Great quarterback. They got a great coach. Probably beef up the offensive line a little bit more. And like you said, Dennis, I think a lot of the play, everybody's banged up at the end of the year, but I don't know if there was, underlying injuries there, or the 2 weeks off did the Patriots no good, kill their momentum. But the offense struggled. The offensive line was terrible. Drake May didn't know what to do. Seattle dialed up all the right blitzes. There was no answer for it. You could see that as the game was going on, the Patriots weren't going to win. So,
well, the Patriots had, Diggs is no longer WR1.
Right.
They got Booty's good, but not great.
The problem with Booty in this game is the Seahawks take away the deep play guy. So that's why they were confident in dialing up those blitzes, because my first thought was how does Drake May throw three passing touchdowns against the Houston defense at Houston, but then lay an egg here? So, and I think you touched on it perfectly. It is the game planning, the defensive game plan on Seattle's behalf. That they called a good game.
Yep.
All right, enough about my Patriots losing in the Super Bowl. Let's jump into what we came here for, the early 2026 ADP best ball ADP. The professor's got all the data. He's going to provide all the data, however you want to say it. And me and Dennis will chime in our thoughts about specific players and whatnot, positions. So how do you want to do this? Do you want to start with round one and go through the first couple of rounds?
I think look at the whole 20 rounds, just positional picking. But I do want to chime in for the TSA's Discord. We have a best ball channel, and I've been dropping these figures there. So if you haven't joined, subscribe obviously to the YouTube, the Spotify, all the goodness here. But our Discord, if you can get the spam bots out of your way, you can actually see some of my secret data that I hadn't all put out, and I just generated one we're going to look at right now. And so I'm going to try to populate that here, there, yonder, keep the TSA happening. So, I like that. Yeah, who did that? So definitely join us, become one with the TSA crew here. And you'll find lots of goodness there in the Discord. So I haven't put this on yet, but I will. My overall strategy in redraft and best ball is I like to look at what I call the top-down approach. I like to see the whole garden. Before I start planting and harvesting, I like to see exactly what the landscape is, and it will change. But this is a very simple diagram or spreadsheet here of the draft round, and then quarterbacks, running backs, tight ends, wide receivers, and just the numbers that are drafted based on the current ADP from FFPC. And then the last column is where I mark who is dominant, WRs or RBs. I mean, we know that that's the dominant. A lot of the strategy is usually at least 2 QBs, 2 tight ends. I usually go probably more towards the 3 tight ends, and depending on my quarterbacks, I could go 2 or 3. So that's just a loose way I do that. But the rest of the time, we're focused on the WRs and the RBs. So this will show you kind of where things are even between the two. The public is, we're basically trying to beat the public. That's coming from horse racing and other gambling. You want to beat the odds. You want to try to beat the house in blackjack and some other things. Poker, you want to beat the other players. And here we want to beat the public. We don't have to be 100% better, 20, 30% better than the crowd. And if you play enough, you'll probably win some best ball. And so I urge people to pay attention to this. If you've never played, there are cheap best balls. I think FFPC has $5. $5. Come on. That's not even wanting to buy a latte anymore. Come on, but you can win some money there. So I urge everybody to start doing that now. Take $5 a month or whatever, and rob your kids' piggy bank, whatever you need to do, and make your bankroll.
Don't do that.
Yeah, rob. Hey, as a horse player, Dennis knows keep that shoe money. You break it all out and you're pulling it out. You got to play those ponies. And so break into the bank, get the kiddies money because they're earning more than you. If you look at their expenses and your expenses, kids are rich these days. Okay.
My son tells me all the time his piggy bank has got more money than we do.
I know. See, well, I'd give him a best ball tax, so take a little bit from him. But anyway, I'm sorry. I get Dennis going here.
Yeah. So we're using this chat to find the edge, to find the edge in the draft.
Well, right now it is clear the public is all over the WRs in the round 1 and round 2. And notice they flip towards bias to the RB. So it looks like there's going to be a lot of people in your league that are going to go WR, then RB. I know some people may grab one of those tight ends, but only 3 will. There's 3 supposedly elite by the FFPC. And I'm a little bit later QBs. I'm not worried about QBs till later down the draft. That's just round 6, 7, 8. I'm starting to consider QBs. But this you can count and you could say, okay, I love, say, somebody who's QB 8. Where should he be going? Round 7. So you could even plot what rounds to start looking for your tight end or your QB. So this pattern here, this is a roadmap, Joe, that and Dennis, and I think we can start planning. So my first question to you guys is, are you going along with the public, going WR? Are you going to go RB and go against the grain? Are you going to try to do one of each in the first 2 rounds? Those are questions that I think people need to write down in their diary. And Dennis and I always talk about that, Joe, and it's something that's a great idea. Keep track of what you're doing. Keep your draft board so you're not making the same mistakes next year. Start this year. Here's your New Year's resolution for best ball. I will keep my draft board and diary and study it in this research season. This is not off season. This is research season.
So one of my favorite things to do, I do it in week 8, and then I do it again at the end of the season. Mm-hmm. And then and then after like this month went by, I'll probably go back and take another look. And Excellent. What I like to do is look at all of my draft boards, not just best ball, redraft, everything, and just see what I missed. You know what I mean? Not so much where I went right, but what I missed, what trend could I have taken more advantage of at the time of each draft. And like you said, the landscape is gonna evolve. We don't even have rookie landing spots yet. Free agency has to hit. There's gonna be a lot of things that change the landscape. But this is a great exercise to start now, like you said, because it already gives us an idea. It gets our brain moving, working. Mm-hmm. We get early thoughts in there. I feel like early thoughts, ever since I've been doing these drafts earlier and earlier, I feel like my results have been better. So I think it's good to have some early thoughts, almost like a foundation to your draft strategy, going into free agency and the rookie drafts, and then plugging that information in as you go and just adjusting from there. So.
Yeah, and I'm going to add one more thing here. And first of all, I love looking at this landscape look of where the public is drafting, because it can give me an idea of where I want to be. Typically, over the last few years, I have been a little bit better at finding the value at wide receiver. Chris Olave was a classic case last year where Professor and I's data loved Olave, and we knew that he was going to get the volume. And here's the thing. We were forecasting that quarterback play wouldn't be any better than it was the year before. This wasn't a Justin Jefferson playing with a competent quarterback And now with an unknown, this was a guy who, when he was healthy, was incredibly successful with crap at quarterback. And the worst case was going to be he was going to once again have crap at quarterback, but no competition or very limited competition for targets. And as it turned out, Spencer Rattler wasn't awful in the first few games. And then Tyler Shuck was actually very solid. He was kind of like, dare I say it, he was like a Brock Purdy. He was very efficient, wasn't flashy, but he was efficient. And you don't care about turnovers when you're looking at your wide receivers necessarily. And he fed Olave. He understood the assignment.
Yeah.
He fed his guy. So the teams where I leaned into running back because I had 2 or 3 or 4 wide receivers that I really liked last year that were value plays, those are the teams where I had success. And the other place that I noticed I had success, and I leaned into a chart like this last year, is I said, okay, what if instead of grabbing one quarterback and then a backup, I get 2 pretty decent quarterbacks, and now I've got the option to play the matchups. In best ball, the matchups are played for you. You don't have to make a decision. They just even themselves out. The earlier in the season that I do a best ball, the more likely I am to draft 3 quarterbacks, even in a 1 quarterback count, best ball league, because you just don't know what the schedule is. You don't even know necessarily who's going to win the starting job 100%. So I like to have that insurance. And when I look at the data from last year and then try to project forward to this year with the knowledge that we know, and, here on February 10th, we've got to be honest that we don't even know what we don't even know yet. But at quarterback right now, my gut feeling says that my better than zero strategy, both in best ball and in redraft, is going to go a little bit cheaper in quarterback. I'm going to probably let the first 5 or 6 go off the board. I'm going to have my 5 value guys to target, but I'm probably not dipping my first, grabbing my first quarterback until I get to round 6 or 7. But here's the key. Once I take that first quarterback, I'm not going to be shy about taking the next one. And quite often I was doing back to back last year. I was doing Baker Mayfield, Dak Prescott, Jordan Love, Jared Goff. I was taking a lot of Drake May. I had Bo Nix, Dak Prescott. I had 2 of those guys that I got really cheap. And then I just played the matchups from there on out in redraft. And in best ball, I grabbed 3 of them relatively cheap and let that strategy, I was so loaded up at the other positions, I was in good shape. When it comes to best ball versus redraft at tight end, that's where there's a big change in how I draft my teams. Typically in best ball, at tight end, I don't worry about overspending for one of those elite guys. I will just grab 3. So I will quite often have a team that's got 3 quarterback, 3 tight ends, and then fairly even at running back and wide receiver when it comes to best ball. In redraft, I will typically pay up for a tight end, might not grab another one. If I do, it'll be very, very late. My simple rule of thumb, both at quarterback and tight end, when it comes to redraft, the earlier I pick my first quarterback, the later I'm picking my second. And same goes with the tight end. But there's such an elite advantage with those top tight ends. It's going to be hard not to pay up for one of the elite tight ends this season.
Nice. Just to piggyback some thoughts off of that, Dennis. When it comes to tight end, I'm more willing to draft a premium tight end than I am a quarterback.
Yes.
I'm with you. I like to wait on quarterback. The only time I really go for the elite is when they actually fall. Like, so if we're seeing here one quarterback in the third round, two quarterbacks in the fourth. If those fourth round quarterbacks happen to fall in round 5, I might consider it based on which position players are available to me at this. They have to fall for me in order to take them. I've noticed that when I take an elite quarterback, I sometimes end up in like third or fourth place, and I'm not playing for third or fourth place. I want first place. That's the goal in fantasy football. All the money, that's where all the money is. You only get your money back or a little bit, after that. So, I'm shooting for the moon. And I think that overall roster construction is more important than locking down an elite quarterback, especially in redraft. Best ball could be different. One thing I noticed, the difference between redraft and best ball is people will take their second quarterback before round 8. In some people will go to elite, top tier quarterbacks, not necessarily elite, but 2 top 10 quarterbacks, just to have that that spike week variance each week, the chance to have that spike week. But in redraft, I'm typically waiting on quarterback. I think it's absolutely futile if you try to take an elite tight end and an elite quarterback. I mean, you need almost everything to go right from that point on. You have to avoid injury. You have to make sure there's no bye week issues, and you need to hit on your late round wide receivers, basically, all of them.
Yeah. 2 years ago, we really loaded up on trying to grab elite quarterback at value, about the third guy off the board typically, and an elite tight end, usually the first or second one off the board. The reason that I could get away with that is I had like 5 running backs that I was really sure of were under, they were not being valued correctly. Chase Brown, I knew he was going to be great. I knew that Bucky Irving was going to break through. So, and I even had some teams with, Rashad White fell. I grabbed him, and then I drafted Bucky a few rounds later. Last year I didn't have that certainty. I didn't have that great feel at the running back position. So I tended not to have an elite quarterback. Those were my best teams when I didn't grab an elite quarterback last year. The teams there where a guy fell around later than I thought he should, I'm figuring he should go in the 3rd, and he's still there early in the 5th. And I dipped into the early quarterback, batch. I screwed up my teams. I should have stayed. I should have had the blinders on to the quarterbacks falling. Lamar Jackson. It just did not pay off for me in several leagues. The guys I ended up, drafting because they fell were Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow, and it just didn't work. The guys I took that were value in the 6th, like a Mahomes, that worked quite well most of the season. But my best teams ended up being the quarterback tandems that were coming in nice and cheap. And looking at my data from last year, I combine 4 different consistency metrics, 2 of them that go over the course of 2 seasons, and then 2 that were just specific for the last season. And looking at that, I think there's going to be some really nice quarterback values again this year that I'll be glad to take too and play the matchup games in redraft.
That's right. Last year it was Matthew Stafford, Caleb Williams, and Drake May. Those were the 3. Those were the 3 cheapos that paid off big time. I got one more thought on how to navigate the elite quarterbacks early on. Typically, year to year, the ones that move up are the ones I'm avoiding. So this year, I was avoiding Lamar Jackson and more so targeting like a Jalen Hurts. Now, incoming 2026, I feel like of the top 4 or 5, it's going to be Jaden Daniels that slips this year. So I might be interested in a Jaden Daniels if he falls to the right spot. If I do, if I am going to be looking to take an elite, what we consider an elite dual threat quarterback, ones that can get us the rushing yards and pay off in the passing game. They have that ceiling. Guys like Drake May, Caleb Williams, they're going to be moving up. So depending on exactly how far they get up, I could be avoiding them. It's all about trying to sniff out who that late round gem is going to be and which quarterback that I don't want to say overachieved, but did so well that now their ADP is going to move up, and we have to determine whether or not they're worth that new ADP. So it's just one more thought on early quarterbacks.
Yeah, and I try to avoid having 2 rushing heavy quarterbacks on the same team. And I'm not sure, Professor, this is something we have to test, whether that is an advantage or a disadvantage to taking, like, for instance, this going into 26, would I feel comfortable taking Jackson Dart and Jaden Daniels on the same team? Both guys that are going to generate some points with their legs, but both that have an injury concern. Typically, I've had better success when I've taken a Jaden Daniels and backed him up with a Jared Goff, because I know I can get Goff cheap, and he's going to give me 8 solid games at home every year. Those are the things that I kind of know I'm going to be able to do. But Professor, we might need to figure out a way to test that, whether it's better to have that solid second cheap quarterback or to roll the dice with 2 guys who have that running upside.
Yeah, it's testable. Yes. So I'm just not sure. I need some interns. So Joe, ESPN needs to send me interns because I'll put them to work. Y'all would be amazed if I had my graduate students back in fantasy football. I would be rocking and rolling with the data here, but it's just me and retired old broken down professor. Students have, hit me left and right and uppercut, and I'm kind of still seeing ghosts out here. I don't know who that quarterback was. He's seeing ghosts. That was my favorite line. I remember that, and beast mode. Those are some funny things, but somebody's seeing ghosts, and that's kind of what I feel like some days here. But I've been working on the data, and like I said, I wanted to try to up the TSA's Discord, actually throw data. It's easy to say opinions, but it's a little bit. I like to show a little bit of what I'm thinking. So, guys, I'm going to ask a question again. Just generically, I'm not worried about your draft pick or anything, right? Just notice the public is saying WRWR, RBRB. Is that the way to go? Do you have to go to the player level? Is there any advantage in trying to stay above the fray a little bit?
Well, go ahead.
All right. I was going to say one thing I've observed is I'm seeing through the first 4 rounds, there's 21 running backs that are being taken, and also 21 wide receivers that are being taken. So I do believe you have to branch off a little bit. And obviously it also dependent, the side of the board that you're on is going to be dependent here, because if you're at the beginning of the board, you're in the first 4 or 5 picks, then running back first is obviously certainly going to be an option. I think when it gets to the back end, when you're on the back end of the board, you might be starting wide receiver more so than running back. But with that being said, I see 12 running backs in rounds 3 and 4 and only 9 wide receivers in rounds 3 and 4. So I would say if there is a pivot, it would be to start wide receiver and then maybe hammer running back for 3 rounds.
Let me also add, look at rounds 5, 6, and 7. 2, 2, 2.
That's why I say
and
that.
Look at, WRs. Look at tight ends. I'm just saying there is a forgetfulness. It's like, okay, I got my boss RB or maybe 2. Hey, shh. And I'm going to now fish elsewhere.
And traditionally, that's been an advantage that Professor and I will have in drafts is we'll be zigging when everybody else is zagging. So I have a tool that I call the MVP index, and it's really pretty simple. It just looks at the 3 things that a player can do every week for your fantasy football team. He can score a shitload of points and help you win. He can have a horrible game and make you lose, or he can be around the median and keep you in the game. And using my numbers, a score of 120 on my MVP index is what's considered elite at running back and wide receiver. So when we look at the first 2 rounds of drafts, 9 running backs and 12 wide receivers are going off the board. The reality is, if you look at over the last 6 seasons, you look at 120 or more with an MVP score, that is on the median over the last 6 years is 4 running backs and 5 wide receivers. If you look at the 100 MVP level, which are starting RB1s and WR1s, 13 running backs, 11 wide receivers. So the data says you want to, if anything, it's really even. Yet the public is prioritizing wide receivers. If anything, there is a slight edge when it comes to 100 or greater on the MVP for running backs, yet wide receivers are being taken earlier. That's a disconnect to me. That's where the public is getting this wrong. And that's why I am not afraid to open a draft the way you did 35 or 30 years ago, 25 years ago in fantasy football. Man, if I could pound RB back to back in the first 2 rounds, I was smiling ear to ear because I had 2 stud running backs and I was going to be able to dominate my league. The game has changed a lot, okay? But I think the game is changing back. I think the way teams are playing defense nowadays is removing that long pass from the game. When you're playing against a good defense, it's hard to get those huge chunk plays with the passing game. So I think running back as a start in redraft, what's old is new again, Joe. Things come in cycles in the NFL because when an offense does something too well, the defense adjusts. When that defense adjusts and the offense tries to counter, then the defense has to make another change. But it never is instantaneous. And I believe that the running backs might have a slight edge going forward when it comes to that consistent, solid 15 to 20 point game. The running backs might get the edge, especially if you got running backs who are used to catching 3 or 4 passes, because we're talking PPR here. That's a huge advantage. If you're getting 15 carries and you're getting 3 or 4 catches, that 3 or 4 catches is an instant 6 points. That's giving you a solid floor. Unlike a wide receiver that can give you maybe 1 or 2 catches on a bad game. You know, the number of elite wide receivers that see 10 targets on a very consistent basis is very, very small in this league.
It has gone down for sure. The alpha wide receiver is certainly a dying breed. I mean, to the old standards. I mean, there's still alphas
Yes.
because Chris Olave is going to get his 30%. There's guys that still hit the target share numbers that you want from a wide receiver one. It's just offenses are being forced to spread the ball around almost. Like you said, that is the defenses are adjusting and teams are deploying 2, even sometimes 3 running backs. Some teams use 3 running backs, and they're all getting a chance to touch the ball 10 to 15 times. So if you add in those receptions, those targets and those receptions add up, and it they give you a pretty solid floor week to week.
Yeah, and when it comes to defenses adjusting, look how many defenses now are playing a nickel package as sort of their primary package, because you're coming out with 3 cornerbacks. You're got a cornerback whose specialty is covering the slot receivers. And that is a big change here in the last 3 or 4 years. It used to be those slot receivers, they were kind of not covered by a real cornerback. It would usually be a safety or even a linebacker that was trying to make that play in a lot of zone defenses. Now you're using 5, defensive back sets more and more often, or you've got some linebackers that have that versatility to play almost like another defensive back. So speed kills on defense, and we're seeing more and more of that sort of adjustment to what teams were doing. And I think you can blame it on Mahomes for beating everybody deep. Nobody wants to be beat by the long pass anymore. And
Mahomes hasn't completed a long pass in 4 years.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Defense has adjusted to that. And that's been the biggest change has been, if you don't give a great quarterback that option to throw deep, he's got to beat you with the little stuff. And that little stuff, eventually it's a little harder to complete. But and some of that little stuff goes to your running back. So again, puts that emphasis on having those really good, 3-down running back types. I'm not talking about guys, when 25 years ago, when you were talking about bell cow running backs, it was getting a minimum of 25 carries. Nobody gets 25 carries. Nobody gets 20 touches anymore. The idea of the bell cow running back has really changed. But if you can get 3 or 4 receptions a game, that is going to be a solid total that is going to keep you in that game and in your matchup each and every week. The guys like the Bijan Robinsons and the Gibbses and, the guys that are good out of the backfield, Jonathan Taylor, another one. Those are the guys that have that extra value. Used to be Alvin Kamara. I'm not sure who's going to be in that role for the Saints next season.
I will just jump in with a couple things. Back before Dennis and I actually paired up, I ran some simulations, like I think 10,000 situations, and I had a 4-player team that I asked the question, drafting the top 2, the top running back, WR, then flipped it and just ask over the simulation. And it turned out for 7-8 years ago that it was RB was slightly better than WR, with the proviso that you could pick the ones that weren't injured.
Yeah.
And there's the trick. If you're diary and you're just get lucky some years, it's probably best to have 2 RBs. The trick is can you spot the right ones? And so your diary, if you look the last 5 years, are you good at RB picking? WR? I mean, you should play to your strengths. So folks out there, play what works with you, but make sure you're honest with yourself. The definition of works, I mean, make money, not almost, or, I accidentally got there, or, only drank a case of beer and still picked this team. I'm talking some serious play here. Keep your diary and see how good you are. But I think if you have skills, you should test those skills, and diaries are a way to keep up with that.
One thing, Joe, that I think we're seeing more of in recent years, and again, Professor and I need to test this data a little bit to make sure, but it seems to be the case. We're seeing a lot more shared backfields, which will make that more difficult to find those value running backs like we used to be able to from the 4th to 6th, 7th rounds. So now I think it might be even more critical to get those elite running backs early, because the number of guys that you can really count on to get the high volume every week is really, really going down. But that doesn't mean that you can't also take advantage of these shared backfield situations. And I'm finding myself drafting a lot more combos, not with my first or second running back, but my 3rd through 7th guys that I pick might be picking 2 on the same team. Like I mentioned a few years ago, I had a lot of Rashad White and Bucky Irving. Last year I did, but I drafted him Bucky Irving and then Rashad White late. I had a lot of Stevenson and Henderson this year with the Patriots. And some weeks, if my starting running back was on a bye or he was out, I was playing both Stevenson and Henderson in the same week. If one guy dropped off, the other guy was going to pick him up. So it did hamper my upside a little bit, but it gave me consistent performance at running back. Was not my prime game plan, okay? But sometimes having both sides of that shared backfield and starting them at the same time. Now, FFPC in redraft, we're starting 2 flex positions. So you can get away with doing that sort of thing more than in leagues where you only have 1 flex.
Nice. And one thing I want to mention about the committee backfield approach, I think it forces you to further evaluate the team's situations. Like for instance, I'll use the Seattle Seahawks. We got Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker. Now, Charbonnet was entering it was a year 2 or year 3. I can't remember. It was year 2, right? That they brought in Sam Darnold. That he needs help with blitz pickup, pass protection. That Charbonnet, that's one of his specialties. Kenneth Walker's, that's one of his weaknesses, although he has gotten better as his career has moved along. It's still is a recipe that you could have figured out. And then you got to factor in where these guys will go in ADP. Kenneth Walker was costing you a 5th round draft pick. So if you you use a 5th round draft pick and you're expecting more than you got. Charbonnet was getting the goal line carry. Charbonnet was coming in on 3rd down. Kenneth Walker seemed like he was only getting those 10 to 12 carries with maybe a couple of targets. Charbonnet was getting the 3 to 5 targets. He was getting the goal line carries, all the important touches. So when you approach these committee backfields, you got to really look at the situation the team's in. Is their offensive line good? Are they going to be playing from behind more? Does it favor the pass catching running back? You got to factor in game scripts. All of that comes into play when especially if you need to pick one of the two. Like like if you had to start, there were weeks where you had to pick between Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker. You had to do some research and you had to look and, are they going to be playing with the lead? Are they going to be in a close game? Are they going to be forced to pass more? Like you got to factor in all this stuff. So as far as player selection goes, I think you really, really need to be on top of your game when it comes down to analyzing these committee backfield approaches.
Sometimes I think we expect too much out of our starting backfields in fantasy football. If I had played Charbonnet and Walker every week, that they were both healthy and not on, one or the other wasn't on the injury list. Now you had a season where you didn't have Kenneth Walker on the injury list very often. You had Charbonnet a few times where you thought it was going to be, less carries for him. But if you look at the totality of the season, and if I get 25 points or more out of my RB1 and my first flex, that's not a bad week, folks. 24 would be hitting median at both positions with a starter, and you can't always hit the median with your flex starter. But down the stretch for those the last 3 weeks of the season, 42, 33, and 35 points combined. I don't know about you, Joe and Professor, but if I can get 30 or more points out of my RB1 and my flex combined, I'm smiling because I know I've got an advantage against almost every team that I'm playing.
Absolutely.
Joe, I shared.
I saw,
player level. If we want to.
Are we all? Do we want to analyze? I just want to point out one more thing about the position trends. The last two rounds seem to be majority wide receiver. What are your guys' thoughts on that? I mean, normally I pick, unless the running backs are usually dried up at that point. And if I the way I draft, I like to make sure that my fifth running back isn't necessarily a dot throw. So I'm not really targeting a dot throw running back at that point. I know you guys, we were talking about it before we went live, but I see where you guys are coming from with that. But I like to just because of my style of drafting. It will go back to the diary, Professor. I'm pretty good at identifying round 19, round 20 wide receivers that are going to hit. So I've been going back to that well. So that's just my preference. What I want to hear your guys' thoughts about it too, because we were talking about it earlier. We share it with the audience.
Dennis should go. He kind of steered me to his methodology, better than zero, where we focus on RBs towards the end. So, Dennis, why don't you take us through that and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so in redraft, quarterback and tight end are treated completely different. And, they will be very different from year to year and from draft to draft. I would rather have a premium tight end than a quarterback. But those two positions are handled almost like they're an independent part of the draft. And the running back and the wide receivers is where I really concentrate. I'm not afraid to go running back to lead off a draft. But by, say, the 6th round, I probably got my core of 3 or 4 wide receivers, my first 3 or 4 wide receivers. And then after I've got my wide receiver set, I get pretty much taking more running backs than wide receivers in most of my drafts. And again, this is redraft. Best ball, I might be more balanced. In redraft, I will quite often end a draft. And again, we're 20 players in FFPC. You could take away one defense and one kicker. So you got 18 position players. Assuming I've got 2 quarterbacks and 2 tight ends, which is my typical alignment, That leaves me with 12 other players. Typically, it's 5 wide receivers and 7 running backs. And I will protect my running backs. I will not protect necessarily my wide receivers. So late in a draft, one of my guys that I really liked this year was James Cook. But even on teams where I didn't draft James Cook, I drafted a lot of Ray Davis late, because if something would have happened to James Cook, Ray Davis is going to be the next man up. I use what I call the opportunity index. I look at the running back position and I figure, okay, who's the next guy up? A few years ago, this is how I ended up with Kyron Williams on 80% of my teams, because when I looked at that running back group, I was like, man, this is like horseshit central, except for Kyron Williams. Kyron Williams is going to be the man. Everybody was going Cam Akers. Some were going a different route. And I was like, I know he didn't play well last year, but Kyron Williams is the only guy that has any kind of pedigree to take this position. Similarly, a couple years ago, it was Chase Brown. Chase Brown was, Mixon's gone. That was a big hole to fill. And it was Chase Brown was the only guy that made sense there. It wasn't Zach Moss. It was Chase Brown. That's what the opportunity index told me. Last year, I was taking a shot at a lot of different rookie running backs. I thought the avenue is wide open for rookie running backs. We ended up having about 7 rookie running backs that had a full season and good MVP index scores. Joe, one of the things that I've really become aware of, especially at the running back position, is we got to treat fantasy football like it's 4 quarters of a football game. It's very rare nowadays to have that running back after your top elite, like 8 or 9 or 10 guys. It is very unlikely that other running backs are going to be great from the start to the end of the season. Okay. But if you look at these little 4 to 6 or 6 to 8 week portions of a season, you can ride different running backs. It happened with the Patriots. It was Ramondre Stevenson. Then it was, if he was dinged up or whatever, then it was lean to Travion, Henderson. If you got both sides of the running back equation locked up, you're going to have a running back late in the season. So I like to use those inexpensive running back tandems or the cheap backup to an elite running back. Those are the two ways that I'm using this opportunity index concept to sort of make sure that at the end of the season, when the playoffs come around, that I've got still 3 or 4 viable running backs to choose from for my starters. The wide receiver position will take care of itself. You could get the Michael Wilsons of the world off of waivers if you were smart when they showed the tendencies after we saw the injury to Marvin Harrison Jr. Not so lucky to do that at the running back position. You end up having to pay for them up front. So as the season wears on and as a backup running back goes down, look at what happened with the Chargers. When Najee Harris went down, I was saying, Kamani Vidal, that's the guy. Get him this week off of waivers. And what ended up happening? Hampton goes down the exact same next week. So that strategy of who is always the next man up, that's the guy I want to add. In drafts, I make sure I get those inexpensive late round next man up guys. I had a lot of Menanje from the Bears this year.
He was a good one.
Didn't expect him to do anything until late in the season at all, or if Swift went down. But those are the kinds of guys that I will draft late every single year because I lean into having more running backs. It's not because I'm smart that I do well on running backs. It's because of the strategy. If you can build a strategy that pays off even when you're wrong, that's a hell of a strategy. So if you've got both sides of a running back group in an uncertain situation this year, wasn't crazy about Javonte Williams, but I got late in drafts. I'm grabbing Javonte Williams. He's him or Sanders or Blue. It's going to be one of those guys that emerges. So if I got two of the three, I got 2 votes for who's going to be viable any given week. And we ended up not seeing much of Javonte getting hurt this year, which made him the valuable guy. I had a lot of Javonte Williams on my roster, not because I liked him or not because I was great at forecasting him to have a good season. It's because he was a cheap alternative who could emerge as an RB1. Those are the kinds of guys that I'm usually drafting from rounds 12 on. Rounds 12 on last year, Professor and I were drafting a hell of a lot of rookie running backs. We were just letting the volume pay off. If I grab 4 of them, one of them is going to emerge late in the season.
No way you had a round 12 Javonte. Round 12? Maybe round 9.
Well, we got
Did you?
Javonte in the 10th in the TSA league, I want to say.
Yeah, he was like round 9, but he was a great one to pick.
But Javonte Williams, after round 7, I'm just looking upside. I'm not caring about anything but upside.
Rico Dowdle was another good one. Yeah,
I wasn't a big Rico Dowdle guy because
really?
I didn't really think the Panthers were going to do anything solid. So I wasn't really leaning into that as much as I was having Javonte and Sanders or Javonte and Blue, Sanders and Blue. Those kinds of combinations I had a lot of because I thought that position with Dallas might actually be worth something during the season.
Right.
The other tandems I had a lot of Dobbins and RJ Harvey last year, and I had a lot of Travion Henderson and Ramondre Stevenson. Those tandems paid off really nice. But again, they didn't pay off as a guy who was a top 10 in points per game.
No, you're looking at it in windows.
Little segments of the season. And, you're patching and filling a lot at running back. And if I've got some options, and again, it's because I've already drafted a Josh Jacobs and, guys like that who are getting the volume, but for some reason got ignored until the second round. And now he ended up having injury problems late, so you needed to patch and fill around him. But for a great portion of the season, he came relatively cheap. Even Jonathan Taylor was a bargain last year, and he paid off until his quarterback went down. Those are the kinds of guys I love getting in the second round of drafts. The guys that had no business falling to the second round. And that's a lot of times that second round, I'm usually going running back, even if I went running back in round 1. I'm coming back with a running back because there's usually some guys that are great values in that second round.
I piggyback with Dennis. Obviously, I'm fortunate to in redraft to have the waiver wire as my friend. I had out of 38 leagues, I had 35 with Vidal for like nothing, like $1 or something. It was a joke, and so I'm constantly using and beating the rush a lot, and that really helped me in best ball. Again, getting tandems, getting even 3 of them if you can. And what I do is I look at the team level activity. So before I'm looking at a player, again, this top down, I like to kind of see what teams in general are rushing more or getting RBs out of the backfield more, more of the touches kind of thing. I'm looking at the proportions, and there are some teams that hate their tight ends. You couldn't pay me to draft a Carolina tight end. I'm gonna have to let them break out before I will draft a tight end. They just never have used them, and there's other little nuggets like that. So in best ball, I would say you could go through the touches and look at the team level proportions, and that might point you to this area, the rounds, 15, 16, 17. And notice that the public in round 18 is picking their third tight end. You can figure about round 7, they're grabbing their first. Looks like by round 13, they're grabbing their second. And it looks like a lot of people are jumping in the third tight end. And I think the quarterbacks are probably tending to be the average of 2 per team. And you can figure that average out. And so the question I have is that a good ratio or not? And those are some big questions that I sit there and I would just look at this and consider what's going on before I even worry about, overlays or underlays of players. I'm just trying to get a sense of what's going on. But I also like to track team, what do they like to do? And certainly in the season, Dennis and I are all over the home away splits. And I have a metric called efficiency, which little secret sauce there, but Dennis and I use it. And it was, very intriguing for the Super Bowl. The Patriots don't like to play, away as much. They're a little bit less than the Seattle's a little bit more balanced away, and the Patriots a little bit more skewed to the pass. And I said, if Seattle could shut that down, then that's going to really hurt their tendency, right? We're always trying to predict team tendencies and in general, not at player level, but I would use the team tendencies on top of these patterns as well. So that would be another kind of little nugget that I would throw out to people, not even debating. I'm not going to sit here all summer and debate who should be the number one, Chase or Gibbs or Bijan or whatever. I will let somebody else waste that. I'm looking across the board at all the patterns, and I just don't. That's just too nitpicky for me for the most part. I think everybody's going to jump on Bijan a lot more than Chase. I may be wrong, but with Burrows going down last year, Chase became a little bit of a liability. So I would probably think Bijan's going to be perceived as safer in the first pick. But anyway, that's a little bit deeper still. That top-down approach is what I'm trying to. Dennis has really picked up on that. I've picked up on his better than zero, and he taught me consistency, him and Bob Lung. And those guys have really helped me focus and put all my other metrics together. And Joe, I like your common sense. When I want to hear common sense, sometimes we get a little bit too crazy in academia, Joe. We get a little bit off to the side, and we got to come back to earth. And Joe is that man. So, folks, that's how I would use these 3 musketeers here. Get the common sense from Joe. Dennis, he's the high-flying guy. He'll take you up or you'll crash hard, but you had a shot at it. And I'm trying just to steer the whole, like the Clampett jalopy here. I'm just trying to keep all the wheels going here. So between these other guys, I really love this tandem here. And I hope we get to, Joe, come back and we'll do this some more on the best ball.
Absolutely. Yeah. We got to keep up with the landscape.
And if you want if you want to switch to that next slide, I don't know what your time is, but
yeah, we can jump over to
let's
that.
get a little bit to the player level. So, folks, what I did the first 2 rounds, because everybody seems like they spend probably too much time on round 1 and 2. Okay, sometimes it's as simple as who's safe. Dennis will tell you that, and he's convinced me as well. But what I've shown you here is Chase is kind of by himself. Then there's 4 WRs, there's 3 more, and there's 4 more. And then, again, this round 1 and 2. And then the RBs are a little bit more split. Notice there's grouping of twos. Taylor's sitting out there, kind of if it's a teeter-totter, he's right there at the fulcrum. He may be the play there. And then 2 and 2. So I like this pattern. And I think if you just stare at this a little bit, and I just say, where are the imposters? I think if you find the star players, they're there. It's just, I'm trying to think who's going to be the weakest this year. I think that's where I want to spend my time thinking about. So I was curious if y'all want to start with WRs, who's the weak links in some of these little pairings here? Who are y'all scared about? Is there any scared? Y'all may not be scared.
Yeah, I'll jump in here because I'm scared of the guys that I'm uncertain of who is going to be their quarterback or whether they're going to have competent quarterback play.
Mm-hmm.
I had everybody tell me that Justin Jefferson was quarterback proof. There is no such thing, man. There is no such thing. You need competent quarterback play, and you did not see it out of Minnesota. And Justin Jefferson's MVP index was in the 70s. You were drafting him to be a 120 guy. What has changed with the Vikings right now, looking ahead to 26? I mean, are they going to bring in a veteran? Are they going to bring anybody who was better than Sam Darnold was 2 years ago or Kirk Cousins was several years ago? That I don't have an answer to, so I'm a little bit worried about Justin Jefferson. I'm a little bit worried about Malik Neighbors. He's coming off of a serious knee injury. Right now on February 10th, I'm a little bit concerned. I'm not sure I'm paying up for him until I see good medical reports and see him actually moving. I'm a little bit concerned about Drake London. Are we going to see Penix? Are we going to see Cousins? Are we going to see somebody else? What are we going to see at quarterback with Drake London? And is that still going to be Bijan Robinson's team? That's the 2 questions with Drake London. Right now, I look at this list. My 3 favorite wide receivers that I'll trust all day are Puka, JSN, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. The next guy on that list that I'm putting trust in might surprise people because it'll be Chris Olave, and I can get him at the end of the first round, early second round, all day long. You might notice that I didn't mention Jamar Chase. Last year, I famously said on our podcast, I'm worried about Jamar Chase because he's tied to 2 injury risks, not just 1. Because they are going to be struggling without Joe Burrow, and Jamar Chase is going to fall off without Joe Burrow. His MVP index without Burrow was not where you were drafting him to be. When Burrow came back and with Flacco, he was just fine. But when I'm picking a guy, first pick in the draft, I don't want any question marks except for injury to that player. With Jamar Chase, the question mark is injury to him or injury to Burrow. And that's what scared me about Jamar Chase. Now, if Puka has an injury to Stafford, Garoppolo is there to pick up the slack. JSN, yes, I was worried, but I was not too concerned because he produced at a pretty high rate with Geno Smith the year before. So those are the kinds of things that I look at. But my three favorite wide receivers right now would be Puka, JSN, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Those are my three guys that I'm probably banking on hopefully getting in the first round. If I don't get Bijan Robinson or Devon Achane, Achane is probably my second favorite running back to draft because he had a horrible situation at quarterback last year and he still produced. So I look at him as being as bulletproof as yet at running back. And I can take an Ollie Gordon or a Jalen Wright late to protect him.
Joe, what say you?
Well, Dennis took all the players, so no. I'm with him. My favorites are probably JSN, Puka, and I actually really like Olave. His consistent volume, and I think Tyler Shuck is only going to get better. So he looked pretty good. And I don't know how much the offense will improve. Is Kamara gonna have a bounce? Is he gonna have a bounce back year? Are they gonna add any weapons? I know that they don't have much salary cap space, so I don't know if much is gonna change, but just based on that alone, he's gonna have the sheer volume to just be a real safe pick. Two guys you didn't mention, Dennis, was CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens.
Yeah,
that was the question I was going to ask. Very
good. George Pickens, for me, it's not so much that am I afraid of him. I'm looking at my draft board. I've done 2 best ball drafts so far on Drafters, and I'm looking at the draft board, and he went back end around 3.
So he's going earlier in FFPC. Interesting.
He's going. Yeah. Well, where's he going in FFPC? Where do you got him there?
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
10. Yeah.
10.
See, I won't be. Just like the case with Bucky Irvin last year, I'm not hating on the player. I'm hating on the ADP.
Yeah, and Lave's going into round 1, 12th. So the smart money's there. If you've got a river turn, you might be able to pick up an Olave and a Cook or somebody like that. So you can kind of simulate. In my spreadsheet, I actually have where I sort by draft pick. And I'm just curious, if everybody auto draft in the league, what would everybody get? Because a lot of times people just fall, the next 3 or 4 above or below what they're, I'm up in 7 picks, and they'll go and look, and they kind of get stuck in that little area. And I think you can take advantage of that bias. Not everybody, but there's people in your league will be lazy and won't think, well, I could stretch down and get this. Or I think people get lazy as the draft goes on and they get a little tired. So you need some snacks. You need your glucose in your brain. Make sure everybody's got plenty to drink, Joe. Like I tell Dennis, go get the cheap whiskey, buy 1 bottle of the Johnny Walker Blue, big fancy whiskey, pour that out, and you keep that, and then put the old granddad whiskey in there and let everybody drink up and get everybody going. And that's an old Louisiana hillbilly trick there, get everybody going on the cheap stuff and, let everybody go. But I'm just saying that people, I think, will get lazy. And so I think if you've got the river, that's Olave, but it doesn't mean if I've got round 6 or 7, I wouldn't stretch for Olave. If Puka, JSN, and Brown are gone, and if Dennis wants a WR, pick 7 or 8, he's going to go get Olave. He's not going to be scared to get Olave, and and I would do the same if that's really what I needed at that point. I mean, depending on what running backs are available, but that's kind of what it's coming down to.
Yeah, a lot of times, Joe, what I do is I look at the first round ADP and I say, who are my guys that I feel the best about, that have no red flags by their names? And those are the guys that I'm concentrating on. And usually that ends up only being like 3 or 4 running backs tops and 5 or 6 wide receivers tops. And usually one of them will fall to me, if not, falling like the professor says. You know, I can feel pretty good this year if I started a draft with Cook and Olave in either order as my, 11th or 12th pick in the first round and coming back quick in the second. I'm feeling pretty good if that's my start. I'm okay with both because I've got a volume hog at both positions and I got a guy that I'm in pretty good shape with. Early in the draft, I'm hoping that either Bijan, A. Shane, JSN, Puka, or the Sun God are there. That gives me 5 guys. So I'm protected for the first 5 picks because I know I'm going to get one of my top 5 guys. It gets dicier once you get later in the first.
7, 8, 9. Yeah, it gets a little tricky.
But that's where I've got my Chris Olaves and my James Cooks. I would not mind if, let's say, Olave's gone, all the wide receivers that make sense are gone, and I've got pick 12, and I've got the choice of starting with James Cook and Chase Brown.
You could double up there.
First and second rounds. I'm okay with that.
What's this obsession with James Cook here?
Oh, I love
nobody thinks he's going to regress at all this year.
He didn't last year.
I know he didn't. I know he didn't
last year. So
I'm just saying maybe things are going to change. There's a new head coach.
What if he finally starts getting used out of the backfield?
Listen, Joe Brady was the first person to make James Cook the focal point. As the offensive coordinator, but as a head coach, I see the team taking a step back defensively, and I think you're going to see Josh Allen passing even more.
What if he's passing to James Cook?
I don't know. I got to see what they do. I'm anticipating some off-season moves here. Really think I'm a Keon Coleman truther. I think he is entering year 3. By the way, he's one of my favorite late round sleepers.
I don't mind taking him late.
Year 3 wide receivers with high draft capital should not be going as late as Keon Coleman is going. This is the, like, if you, I made a comparison. I don't know if I put it in the TSA chat or I was talking with Pete or it was in the Discord. I can't remember where I dropped it, but I said, I think I was just talking to Pete, Bear Fan Pete. And I said to him, if take a look at Devontae Adams' first 3 years and compare it to Keon Coleman, it's not much different. In fact, Coleman has more touchdowns than Devontae Adams had in his first 2 years. I'm sorry, not first 3. But then that third year happened, and he took off. And this happens with wide receivers in their year 3. Nico Collins, another one. These are guys that the year 3 breakout is a real thing, but it's, you factor in draft capital. He's part of a strong offense, got a great quarterback. I don't understand why he's going that late.
We're seeing a lot more year 2 breakout seasons for wide receivers, but you're right about the comparison. Devontae Adams, first year MVP, minus 27, second year 0, third year 87. Here's what concerns me. The only thing that concerns me about Keon Coleman, we at least did see both Nico Collins and Devontae Adams increase their MVP index. Keon Coleman went from a 17 as a rookie to a 9 as a second year man. I don't like seeing that decline, even a small decline. I want to see a guy at least double his MVP index. Nico Collins, for instance, yes, year 3 was his first big year, but he went from a minus 31 to a plus 44 his second year. That's a huge increase in
Because
MVP.
the end of that second year is when it was starting to develop and unfurl.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is Keon Coleman did not show me an improvement. I would have been
The
much.
usage wasn't there. I think
That's
that's
correct. Well,
probably
he was off the field a lot, and that
yeah.
even concerns me. But you're right. He's cheap. I'll take a shot at him because he's cheap. But
I'm
I
just
think we're going to see. I think Buffalo's going to make a big move at wide receiver, and is going to make a. I think they're going to bring in somebody, and that is going to be the guy that might be the next. The guy that might be the next value play at wide receiver for them. But I look at James Cook and I'm like, man, I'm not letting this guy get away again. I didn't let him get away last year. I'm not letting him get away this year because I can protect him with Ray Davis. Ray Davis is still going to be the man that's going to be the next man up. And
I would be careful with that because Ty Johnson is their third down running back, and and I think it would still. I don't think it's going to be all Ray Davis in the event that James Cook goes down.
But but here's the thing: is they got to re-sign him. Are they going to re-sign him?
Yeah, we got to see. I mean, we got to see what happens with the offseason moves.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think they're going to re-sign Ty Johnson because I think they've got more pressing issues that they have to take a look at. I guess he's actually under contract for one more year, so they still got that going for him. But I'm liking James Cook again this year. He's going to be a guy that I'll take a big swing on early in that.
As of right now, with the unknown, with still the Buffalo offense being unknown, I'm preferring both Chase Brown and Omarion Hampton over James Cook in these drafts.
I'm a little bit concerned about Hampton.
Why is that? I think I don't know. I think the offensive line is going to be healthy again. Justin Herbert is going to be poised for one hell of a bounce back season.
But
of the three opponents the Patriots played in the playoffs, the Chargers scared me the most.
But are they going to try to do what they did at the beginning of the season and split carries? Because I think they want to keep Hampton fresh. I don't think Hampton got the volume until he was the only option. And that's my concern is, Vidal actually showed that he's got some playing ability. Harris will be back. So you've got 3 guys now that you might be able to utilize. And that might cut into a little bit. I'm not saying I don't like Hampton because I do. I'm just saying it, and professors used to me hearing this. If you can't say 3 positive things and 3 negative things about every player, you're not thinking hard enough in fantasy football. You're just a fan. You are not a fantasy football analyst. I can look at any player and I can give you the downside of that player. There's just some players that I've got fewer downside hits on. James Cook is one of them. James Cook is a guy that I will have quite a bit, depending on his ADP and where he settles in.
He's right at the 1-2 turn.
If I get him at the 1-2 turn, I am going to be celebrating on that 1-2 turn to have James Cook. I'll be more than happy to be investing in him at that price.
Yeah, look, I'm not saying avoid the guy, but as of right now, I mean, things can change. Got to see what Buffalo does, off-season moves.
I would have been more concerned if it wasn't Brady at head coach. Like, it's a guy that, really rode James Cook heavier than than what we saw last year, really, with, now he was calling plays, but was he making all of the personnel decisions? I'm not so sure, and
Right.
now he gets to call the plays. He gets to make all the decisions. I think Cook is going to get more than enough usage. And, we're
That's
in
why
the,
this is why I'm liking Keon Coleman too,
yeah,
because
we're,
McDermott did not like Keon
no,
Coleman.
no, there was some issue there, that's for
Yeah.
sure. But we're seeing Josh Allen entering his age 29 season. Professor, what happens to running quarterbacks as they get older?
They become pocket quarterbacks pretty quick if they
So
want to stay with two legs.
So maybe that means James Cook gets a few more tries in that, 5 yard, 5 yards within the touchdown zone there, within the goal line. Maybe he gets more options going forward as Josh Allen gets older. I'm kind of, I look at all of the equations there, and I look at all of the tendencies that we see with people, and that's why I can make a case for James Cook a little bit earlier in that first round as I can for Chase Brown. And if Jonathan Taylor, hey, if Daniel Jones gets re-signed and he's ready to go early in the season, I'm not against liking Jonathan Taylor again either. So there's a lot of goodness in these first two rounds at running back, is I guess what I'm trying to say. And not much goodness after that, guys. Like after these guys, then there's a big drop off to a bunch of the same. And that's why I think I'll be leaving the first two rounds with at least one running back, and quite often I'll be leaving with two.
Especially on the back end. I'm looking at my draft board, and it's picks 9 through 16, 6 running backs out of the 8 picks. So
yeah, and again, the way I approach it is I will have my safe players, and I'll have my guys that have fewer red flags, and those are the guys I'm taking in the first 3 rounds. I want as much bulletproofisms as I can in those first 3 rounds. And those are guys that, when it comes to running back, the only guys on this list that I'm not crazy about, the only guy I'm not crazy about, I'm still not crazy about Ashton Gianti at that price. I'm
right,
not sure the Raiders are going to be that much better that quick.
yeah, I was just gonna say that we have to see that entire team take a step forward and maybe find the quarterback as well.
Yeah, and again, we're in a situation where on February 10th, right now, as we're talking tonight, you got 7 to 9 teams that aren't certain what the hell they're doing at quarterback. And if you add in the not certain what they're doing in quarterback week 1, you might be as high as 11. So that gets kind of scary. I mean, you got 32 teams and you got 7 that are going to be replacing a quarterback, 9 that don't have a clue what the hell they're doing necessarily at quarterback, or even worse, they've got quarterbacks that you don't really think too much of. And then you've got another 2 to 3 guys that just might not be healthy week 1 because they got hurt late in the year. That's scary when you're going into a season. That's a lot of uncertainty. And I'm not going to be leaning into a lot of those teams with that much uncertainty on their platter.
Joe, if you want to move to, rounds 3 and 4, Dennis, you were talking about what's out there. This is the next 2 rounds here. So we've covered the first 4 rounds. So again, you can see the grouping there, and you can see we've got running backs 2, 2, and then they start getting bigger right there. Look at that big hunk of group there. And then there's 3 there, including my favorite, Cam Scatteraboo. I think that's, wow. If he can take over that team, he will reward you for picking him in round 4. For sure. I really am high on him. Just, can he fight off Tracy? I think early in the season, maybe they'll split, but I think he's definitely, you want to grab him and then maybe circle back and get Tracy if you want to try to have it the whole time. That may be a good strategy.
That's a decent pairing.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. So anyway, that is the next grouping, folks. So I'll let y'all chew on that a little bit. I've got some, highs and lows in this group, as most people will start having. As Dennis will say, we're starting to leave the no red flag zones now, and we're getting some chinks in the armor here for players in this group.
I'm very intrigued about the running backs in rounds 3 or 4. Do we see a Barkley bounce back at all? Where does Love land? Josh Jacobs, I like a lot. And I think he should actually, I can make a case for late second for Josh Jacobs. Bucky bounce back looks good to me as well. I like RJ Harvey. He finished the season strong. I know Dobbins or somebody is going to be back to split carries, but Harvey is the more dynamic guy. If I grab Henderson, I'm probably grabbing Ramondre Stevenson again. I'm not going to mind leaning into that duo. Kyron Williams, I'm a little scared about. And this is the first year I've been a little scared about Kyron Williams. Ken Walker, it all depends where he lands. ETN is a guy I do like. I was high on him last year. But
I want to see them bring him back. If they bring him back, then he's money.
I think they will, and I do like ETN again. I'm assuming he's going to be back or with an even better situation. And I agree with Professor Scatterbo is a guy that I like a lot. On the wide receiver side, there's only 2 guys out of this whole list that don't scare me in some way, shape, or form, and that's T-Mac and Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson with lousy quarterback play was really good. He was like the Chris Olave, factor before he got hurt, and he got hurt early enough in the season that he'll be back just fine. Everybody else has a little bit of a red flag by him. AJ Brown, because he's turned into a head case all of a sudden. T. Higgins, because he's got traffic in front of him with a great wide receiver, although Higgins was very productive last year using my MVP. I expect the Lad McConkey bounce back to some level, but I'm not sure if it's going to be high enough because I look at that attack for the Chargers and I'm wondering if they're just going to spread it around on the passing side, but be mainly a running team first. Zay Flowers, I have no idea what that offense is going to look like under new leadership. Jameson Williams is too much of that big threat, no threat guy. I like him in best ball better than I like him in redraft. Devontae Adams, I'm just not sure what's going to happen with the Rams, and Devonta Smith. See AJ Brown double the problems. I'm always worried about the Eagles and their passing attack because they don't seem to want to pass as much as they should. But those are the guys that I think might be overpriced a little bit. So again, I'm hoping maybe that I get one wide receiver out of this group, either T-Mac or Garrett Wilson. But I'm probably leaning into a lot of running back here as well.
And just to jump in, remember our pattern that the public is dipping into RBs a little stronger than the WR. So I think, Dennis, what you're seeing is what the public is leaning into. It's like, I'm going to go, get some RBs here at this point.
The running backs in this group compared to the wide receivers in this group, when you look at the tiers, I feel like a much safer pick than the wide receivers.
But if I can get a Garrett Wilson or a I'm happy.
I agree. Those are the two consistent high volume players there.
Now, here's one thing I'll say. If with a change of leadership in Baltimore, they decide to actually throw the ball more consistently, Zay Flowers had a hell of MVP index last year.
Yeah, I'm not afraid of Zay.
Finish. I'm not afraid of Zay as much as I'm afraid of some of these other guys. Might lean into Devontae Adams again, take the old guy and give him one more chance. He was fabulous last year.
As long as Stafford's standing upright, Adams is going to be scoring a touchdown a game. Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think Saquon is probably a pretty good discount this year. Like you said, Dennis, they rely on their defense and game time management, time possession to win their football games. They're not necessarily airing it out unless they have to. So I could see Saquon having a bounce back here. Jeremiah Love, we know that these rookie running backs always carry risk. So, landing spot will be key. Breece Hall. Yeah. Hall, I'm excited for Breece Hall as long as he's not back with the Jets. And I have a feeling that they're going to either franchise him or he's going to sign a small contract, 1-year deal. They're not going to let him walk. They're going to make sure he's rostered. And then maybe they'll trade him throughout, during the season. But I just don't see them. I see him being a New York Jet come week 1. So I think that you'll see him fall out of the 4th round if that's the case, because I think people are anticipating the Kansas City Chief rumors.
I actually think the Chiefs have a better chance of moving up in the draft and getting Love than they do signing Breece Hall.
I agree.
Of the situation.
I was just going to say, why pay all that money for an elite running back when you can trade up and draft an elite running back that, on a rookie deal, first year deal. And then you get to have them for 4 or 5 years,
And there is a possibility it could fall to 9 also. So I don't know. It's going to be a very interesting, of the rookie running backs. And last year I had like 7 guys that I liked. And they're all value plays for the most part. I didn't like Giante. All my rookie guys were value guys. This year I got like 2 rookies that I'm looking at that I'm curious about. And Love is obviously the top of that heap. But it all depends on where they land, because we saw with Giante, Raiders, horrible. That was just not going to work. And yet people were gullible and they paid up for him. I mean, I could see the same thing if, Love goes to the Tennessee Titans and they don't fix their offensive line. Then he's dead. He's going to be dead to me early on in drafts.
The Jeremiah Love is the running back there, the rookie that's right there in 26th in the FFPC. So there's a lot of people going to be jumping on him, and you need to weigh that option. Are you good at picking some of these rookie running? I'm listening to Dennis in about August. Right now, I'm just kind of tuning it all out. But he'll have his opportunities. We'll know what team he's on, and there'll be a lot of clarity on these, rookies, and I look forward to potentially drafting him in the right position. The right team, I guess, would be the word. So we'll see. Right now, the thing is, I think people get enamored and they imagine the best case scenario, right? Not like, he went to the Raiders. We saw that last year. A highly regarded, rookie, and then it's like, ruh-roh. And so now, who knows where he could go? He could go somewhere where it's not a good thing. So I don't know yet. That seems a little risky to me right now, right where he is today. I guess in best ball, if I'm not investing, $5 or whatever, okay, fine, I'll do it. But if I was putting some serious best ball money down, I'd be a little concerned. That was my third pick, would be him at that position.
Yeah, I think this might be a little bit too early for me on Love, depending on where he lands. The two guys that I'm really intrigued about as running backs that are going to be more affordable is, I guess, the way I would put it. Really, I'm curious to see where Emmett Johnson and Nick Singleton land. Those are the two guys that I'm looking at, and depending on where they land and depending on where their price is in the drafts later on, when we get to July and August, those are two guys that I will probably be taking if they're cheap enough and they land with the right teams. I don't even care if there's a running back ahead of them. Those are the kinds of guys that could emerge late in the season. And they got the kind of pedigrees that I really am kind of looking for.
So looking at my best ball board here, Emmett Johnson is currently going in round 13. He went in round 13 in this. And what was the other one you said, Dennis?
Nicholas Singleton from Penn State.
Let me see if I can find him on the Singleton.
13th round is about right for Emmett Johnson without knowing where the price,
right.
And anything after round 12, man, I'm really going upside, and I'm usually pretty heavy running back at that point.
Singleton.
He might even be like
maybe he's going undrafted.
Might go undrafted. He's going to be kind of my, depending on where he lands, he might be my late round guy this year. Professor knows I had like 5 or 6 of those guys last year that we were just milking late in drafts.
All right. So, Professor, you got FFPC ADP in front of you. Give us a couple of players that the ADPs surprise you. Good value ADP in the mid rounds here. Not so, what did we cover? We covered the first 5 rounds. So from round 6 on, give us you're actually muted too, by the way. give us
my dog was barking. I've got the rookies real quick. So when I look at this, and I was going to
did you share another screen?
Yeah, I'm going to try to share it here on the screen. Let's see, what can I do? I don't know, Joe. Sometimes things just,
I mean, you don't have to share it.
Sometimes just slip away. Here, let's see. Okay, let's see if I can, just this one. Okay, let me see if that worked. Let me try to share the rookies, because we were talking rookies. Let me see if it worked. Come on, John. Did it work? I don't think it did. No. So anyway, it looks like Love is round 3. And, that's the next guy is Tate wide receiver, round 6. Sadike, the tight end, and Price is the second RB at round 7. And so those are the top 4 rookies. And we need a show to hit the rookies hard when, Dennis gets his opportunity stuff going. But those are, is Tate ringing anybody's bell in round 6? Anybody? Before we go to answer Joe's questions.
That's a little early for me for any of the wide receivers in this year's class. I will probably not be taking any rookie wide receivers this year. Subject to change depending on landing position, but let's assume that they go about where they're supposed to go in the draft right now. I probably will be passing on them in redraft at where they're likely to be drafted.
Right. Tate went in round 4 in this draft.
Wow. That's pretty tasty there. Somebody's really loving him. That's bold.
I'd have a hard time investing that early in him.
Took him over Jamison Williams, took him over Luther Burden, Christian Watson, Emeka Ibuka.
Oh man.
And then Tyson went in round 5.
Yeah.
Right after those names I just mentioned.
Remember what I said.
Go ahead.
Remember what I said about passing at them at the expected prices? At those prices, I'd be laughing when they came off the board because that's just too much uncertainty for me.
Yeah, I have to agree, Dennis. That's crazy crackers there.
So, Professor, I got a question about a couple of tight ends and where they're going in FBPC right now.
Yeah.
Fannin, Loveland, and Kincaid. I'm very curious where those 3 guys are going.
I'm going to sort by position now. Let's see. So let's see. Did it work? No. Position and then ADP. And I will tell you that I'm scrolling down here.
I got Colston Loveland in round 3. This is not, now we have to keep in mind FFPC is a tight end premium.
Right.
This isn't tight end premium. Loveland's in round 3. Fannin in round 6.
That's better.
Kincaid
in the beginning of round 8.
Yeah. So in FFPC, it's round 1 is McBride and Bowers. Round 2 is Loveland.
Wow.
And then there's a gap, Dennis.
There is a gap, yep.
5th round. So we're talking 3 and 4 is a pass. So your strategy should be, are you greedy with, say, Tyler, Warren, Fannin, Kraft, Pitts, some of those that are going to go in 5 and 6? Do you want to grab them in round 4? In other words, or take a gamble? In other words, is there somebody there you got to have? If so, then the pattern would say, draft them in round 4 if they're your guy in a tight end premium. But anyway, Warren Dennis is the 4th, and Fannin's the 5th, and the 5th round is also Kraft. So it's Warren, Fannin, and Kraft right there together.
Very interesting. Very interesting. The other guy that I'm really probably going to be targeting a lot is Brenton Strange from Jacksonville.
Well, you can wait all day, sucker, on him. He'll be round 9.
Oh, loving that.
You'll be able to collect him and then come back. You can do him with Juwan Johnson back to back or Kittle. How about that? Strange and Kittle.
Oh man, I love
with a little Hunter Henry if you wanted to get 3 tight ends in a tight end premium.
Yeah, I think people are just worried about if Kittle is going to be back before the first half of the season.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You draft if Kittle falls, then you could pick your 3rd tight end to cover. So get Tongas. You know what I'm saying? So get Tongas and then as your third tight end to cover your base.
Yeah, and again, I'm thinking more in redraft than best ball because I always do think that way. I'm kind of thinking my guys this year. If I don't overpay to get McBride, I'm not so sure I want to overpay for Bowers again until I see what they're doing.
Loveland seems expensive in round 2.
Loveland's way too expensive for me. I'm probably leaning Fannin, Kincaid, Strange, Barner. Those are the kinds of guys that I'm probably leaning to this year at tight end if I don't get McBride. I would love to take McBride late in the first, and I'll be happy.
Let me throw a name out there and see what you guys think, because I think in this draft he went in round 16, and I'm sure he's coming at the cheapest he's ever been. What do you guys think about Njoku, 2026 David Njoku?
Ooh, depends on where he lands.
This is what I'm saying. I think this could be one of those uncertainty players that you want to lean into right now before he steams up, depending on landing spot.
Yeah, he's not a player I'd be afraid of drafting at that price. And in best ball, my God, if I could get, let's say, Fannin, and then I could get a Barner or a Strange or Njoku, I get 2 of those next 3. Man, that's a hell of a threesome at tight end in best ball this year. And even if I miss on Fannin, man, I'm not against taking Barner, Njoku, and Strange. My goodness, that'd be a good tight end combo for you. Or Juwan Johnson is another cheap option. Get 3 of those 4, and you got solid.
I still like that Tongas play. I'm liking that now that I've
heard
myself say that.
Yeah, I don't mind that Tongas play either. I think that's not going to be a bad move either.
Interesting. Joe, what was your original question? I'm sorry. We get
any guys, like I just mentioned Njoku. He's the one that sticks out to me. I talked about Keon Coleman already. Any good values from like round 7, round even you can go deep. I gave you a couple of deep ones, but in the mid to late rounds, what's sticking out for you for good value?
For good value, as far as running backs, I see a lot of pairs. I see somebody like James Conner out there in round 10 to pair up with whoever. I don't know where the other pairs for Arizona. So that's what I would do. I would try to look at the tandems. I see Ramondre Stevenson around 9 to pair up with Henderson. I would start looking for the back end pairs of some of those. I see Tracy in round 12. So pick up Scatterboo, then you can get Tracy in round 12. So I'm feeling like that, and I see Dobbins in round 14. So what I'm probably picking is the back end of a tandem that I may have already invested earlier. Does that make sense? I see Vidal round 15 if I picked up Hampton kind of thing, or Harris. Hell, you probably could do all 3 if you had enough bench. If you were really into the Chargers being a run first, looks like you can pick up Hampton, Vidal, and come back with Harris. He's going around 19. How about that? So, or you can just pick up Vidal and Harris and hope, I hate to use the word hope, but in case Hampton is injured or has issues, you've got the other 2 that are viable rounds, 15 to 19. So that's the thinking that I'm doing. And Gorindo is sitting out there in round 20 in case CMC, kind of comes back to the world, that gets injured. And I see Kendra Miller for New Orleans is another one. Bashir Smith. There seems like a lot of goodies So I'm probably being tricked by that.
Where is Trey Benson going from Arizona?
Round 14 on this board.
I'm going to have a lot of Trey Benson at round 14.
Now, let me ask you guys this. How about some of the unknown free agent running backs like Tyler Algier, Rashad White? Algier's round 10 on this board. Rashad White, round 12. David Montgomery, round 11. What do you think about some of these guys that could be potentially playing elsewhere? I mean, I know landing spot's going to matter, but are we leaning into the uncertainty at this point?
Probably not with Algier for me. Some of the others I might take a flyer on, but I think Algier's a very ordinary back whose scoring was boosted because of touchdowns, and I'm not sure as a full-time running back that we've seen enough from him to know that he could carry the load.
Some of the, like I said, I'm probably right now, if I was drafting tomorrow, I'd be looking to back up some of the tandems would be my first priority. And some of these you mentioned, I don't know who the tandem would be. In other words, if I knew where they were at, that would clarify. But right now, with no clarity, I'm probably looking to where I think I see clarity.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think there's going to be some situations that we're not even figuring on. I mean, David Montgomery is an intriguing guy. I'm assuming he's going to be moving on. But he does have a contract for one more year in Detroit. And, I would expect them to deal him. But what if there's no takers and that's the best option is him coming back to that team? Then what does that do for his value? I mean, there's a lot of question marks like that. I think Houston's going to be one of the teams that's going to be investing at running back to pair up with Marks. Which one of those guys gets the lead will depend on who gets signed. So much uncertainty right now. And that's, some of the decisions. I think ETN's going to be back in Jacksonville, but I'm not positive of that. Kansas City's going to be making probably two moves at running back. Whether that's bringing Pacheco back on a 1-year prove-it deal, in which case, if he's cheap enough and they don't draft a rookie high, I might be interested in adding that to the fold as well. Cheap is a good price tag for running backs in fantasy football, and I will be leaning into a lot of that cheapness. And again, if I go early with an A-Shane, which I would love to do, Gordon or Wright will be easy backups there, or both in a deep enough league situation. So I'm not afraid to just just lock up one spot in redraft, especially because then I know I've got a starter, except on their bye week. I know I've got a starter. So I'm not afraid of doing that. And another team that I'm going to be interested to see what ends up happening is New Orleans. If Kamara goes cheap enough, I might bet on the revival.
That's what I'm saying. He's round 15 on this board.
Yeah, round 15, and protect him with either Neal or Miller. And all of a sudden, I'm feeling pretty good about that spot.
I don't rule out a potential RB2, low end RB2, even low to mid range RB2 is within the range of outcomes there. It's just whether or not he's going to stay healthy. I mean, we know he was banged up all year last year, so
banged up, but
the offense was had no momentum really until the end of the back half of the season, and that's when he was really banged up. So we really don't know what to make of another year older Alvin Kamara.
But the last time he had a down year was his year 6 season. He had an MVP of only 67, and he bounced back to a 115 the next year and a 121 after that. So, and that was only 2 years ago that he hit 121. So round 15, Alvin Kamara, sign me up, because I'll also be taking late round Devin Neal or Kendra Miller to protect him.
Yeah, I'll be stacking up those tandems, just like Dennis is talking.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure. Depends on what's dealt to me. I just need to know the possibilities and weigh the outcomes, the range of outcomes in my head, and pick accordingly. And the good news is I do slow drafts, and so Dennis is he's sitting around, with his little cup out there on the street dancing or whatever he's doing to make a little money. And he's always available as my go-to guy here. So it's, ain't no telling what Dennis has got going, tap dancing or whatever he does up there in Indiana or wherever it is, Illinois.
How about Washington? Do you think they're looking to upgrade at running back? I mean, one of my fades, and I'm looking at, he's a late round running back, but he's not a late round running back I'll be taking a shot on, is Chris Rodriguez. I do think that they're gonna add somebody. I don't know if it's gonna be through the draft or free agency, but it's not gonna be all Krosky Merritt, and I don't think they can go forward with what they had this year at the position. So I'm interested to see what they do there, or if they do anything there.
Well, Rodriguez and Eckler are both free agents. So
I'm not. Yeah,
I don't think either one's coming back at the price. Hey, they would be a wonderful outlet for a Breece Hall. That they got the money to be able to spend to upgrade at running back. And, JCM was not awful. When he got the volume, he was very productive.
No, yeah, he showed that he had some, he did have some juice to him, but I mean, I'm concerned. That, I mean, he's currently a pretty good discount. He went in round 13 in this draft, but I'm anticipating him to have some company.
I think you'll have some company. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised to see a Breece Hall in Washington.
I'm okay if they draft a rookie, then I'm going to be probably more in on Krosky Merritt. But if, like you said, if they go out and they get a Breece Hall or something, that kind of nukes Krosky Merritt's initial immediate production. I should.
He's going 11th round in
FFPs.
Yeah, so a little bit more expensive.
Yeah, more sharper players.
Yeah, but anyway, I didn't see anything else there that looked, if Eckler leaves, then, there's nothing else there. Rodriguez is probably not going to be there. Chase Edmonds is not going to be there probably. Nick Bellalore, Jeremy McNichols.
So with the coaching change,
all the names you just mentioned, not drafting them. They're on my fades list for sure. I don't even see them landing anywhere nice. So even Rodriguez.
So one guy with the coaching change that if they don't bring anybody in, or they bring in a suitable backup type player, with the coaching change only, and if the price is right, like really late in the draft, I'm willing to take a chance on Caleb Johnson with Pittsburgh. He got into doghouse of the coach and
the quarterback.
the quarterback.
Yeah.
New management, new things going on there. It might wake his value up. So I like those failed rookie running backs in year two. We've seen them step up, but only if they have the opportunity. But if I was drafting this, this early in the season, and I can get him in the last 4 rounds of a draft, sign me up.
All right. Now to go to the other side. Is there anybody? Give us a couple of players that their 80. You're not a fan of their ADP. You're probably not going to be drafting much of who falls in this group for you guys.
For me, Gibbs is one I'm worried about. Given he's number 2.
Yes.
Just not my metrics show him further down. So not like he's, just take out the trash kind of guy. No, just not number 2. I would take Taylor over him. If Montgomery comes back, I think he'll drop from number 2. I think he'll drop down to lower round 1. So I think you're buying at the height of his ADP until I think by August. If Montgomery comes back, if Montgomery doesn't, he could stay right there. Still got concerns. That's the one that just jumped out at me. Dennis, you got anybody in round 1? I mean, you've said the ones that worried you. Chase Brown. I mean, Jamar Chase. I know, given the injury issue.
I'm probably the guys that I'm probably less likely to take than anybody else are the early quarterbacks. I'm probably not going to be on the top 3 quarterbacks that are going off the board. Josh Allen doesn't interest me at that price. It's just too expensive. Yes, he's productive. There's no doubt about it. It's what you're losing out on at the other positions that are the reason that I will be probably not with a lot of Josh Allen, not likely to take a Lamar Jackson or even a Jalen Hurts, depending on if those guys are the first 3 quarterbacks off the board. I probably won't be taking probably the first 5 quarterbacks off the board this year because I see value at running back and wide receiver that I want, and I can afford to wait at quarterback more this year than any given year. I think this is a definite late quarterback year as long as you get 2 of them. And I'm very confident that I can still have Jared Goff as my backup quarterback at a cheap price. And that's kind of what I'll probably be banking on a lot of this year. So my main fade guys will probably be the first 5 quarterbacks off the board. I'm assuming that'll be Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. I'm assuming Drake May will go that cheap unless people get scared off by the Super Bowl.
Yeah, you got that right. The order's right so far.
If Stafford goes early, he won't be on my teams either. I probably won't be taking a quarterback until the 6th, maybe the 7th round, but I'll probably be taking another one pretty quick after that.
Nice. How do you guys feel about round 4, Luther Burden? I feel like that might be a little bit high. I mean, DJ Moore is still there. Colston Loveland's emerging. Odunze could be primed for a bounce back. He's entering year 3. Talked about it earlier. Year 3, high draft capital wide receivers. Caleb Williams is going to have another year of experience, another year with Ben Johnson. We know they like to spread it around.
Yeah,
that might be a little expensive for my taste.
Yeah, that's probably too expensive for my taste. I'm glad I got a lot of them in Dynasty, though. I would not be shocked to see them move one of those wide receivers. It won't be Burton,
Right.
but
I've been begging the Patriots to go after DJ Moore for 3 years now. He's one of my favorite players in the NFL. He's such a complete wide receiver for an NFL team. You know, if he gets the usage, the proper usage, and they use him right, he can be a great fantasy asset as well. But he is just, I think he can block. He's a great teammate. He's just a well-rounded wide receiver. He can do everything. And if he's a yak monster, you get the ball in his hands with some space, some blocking. You design the right plays for him. He can do some damage.
Love the player, hated the price tag in drafts last year. So
he's fallen. He's fallen in this. He's
yes.
of the 3 Bears wide receivers, he's the one going the latest.
So 2 years ago, I had a lot of DJ Moore. Last year, I had none except in Dynasty. If he goes cheap enough, I will be tempted. And I would not be shocked to see him dealt. I would not be surprised at all, even though I think they're very happy going into the season with just a ton of offensive talent. And, does that hurt him a little bit in fantasy football? Yeah, but if he's going cheap enough, I might take a flyer on him, especially in best ball. I might like him more in best ball than in redraft this year.
I agree with that take 100%. He definitely comes with inconsistency just based on that offense and the usage.
And speaking of the Bears, I'm probably going to end up with some Swift Menange combos as well if the price is right.
Yep, that's definitely a good pairing.
Like both of those guys, and I think the price tags might be very attractive again.
I think they're both going in the mid rounds. Let me see. Swift went in round 5 in this one. Menange 7. So
that's not inexpensive, but it's not horrible. Using my metrics, and again, this looks at the last 2 years with 2 of the metrics, and just last year with 2 of the metrics, he comes out as my RB12, which actually surprised me, but that's pretty solid. He's right behind Chase Brown, and Barkley actually it comes in at 10. So, there's some value to have there.
Yeah, if that's the case, then where he's going is value.
Where he is going is not a bad price. I don't mind having quite a few pieces of a Ben Johnson offense. That's not a bad way to be set up in fantasy football.
The professor's muted. Does he know this?
Uh-oh.
It looks like he's talking, right?
I think he
is he on the phone?
Might be yelling at.
No, I'm sorry. I've been mute. Swift and Menange are 2 picks apart. So you probably, they're the same. They're the same guy. So which one you want?
That's close. That is close.
We're talking 71.3 and 76.1. They're the same guy.
Well, where they're going, though, Professor, that's like end of 6th, early 7th. So you might be able to double up right at the end of a round.
You might slip by and get them. But somebody like Woody Marks is further down. I'm already thinking about pairing with some of these people. I'm looking forward to the 9th, 10th round to pick up some pairing. And, Kamara's in the round 11. Tracy's 12. My ultimate play would be Scatterboo and Tracy, having that locked up. And then think about the Chargers picking up Vidal and Harris cheap. You could have, 2/3 of that show. Depends on your strategy.
And it depends if Harris is back. They've got an opportunity to cut and run from him without a lot of dead cap or trade him. So stranger things have happened. I think we're going to see a lot of moves in the lead up to the draft that are going to make us go, "Ooh, didn't see that one coming."
Agree.
Nice. Shout out to Steve in the chat. He shared the show for us. Steve's been great. Great friend. I've been guesting on his show. Great channel at Fantasy Savvy. Check it out. Doing great stuff. We're also going to be doing some weekly shows in the upcoming weeks during the off season as well on that channel. So shout out Steve, man. You're the man. What are we at? We're at almost 2.5 hours. My eyelids are starting to get heavy. I don't know about you guys.
That's fine.
I mean, we can go all night. I don't care, but
I got dogs to walk, places to be, I'm sure.
It was funny when you said Drake May earlier. That was the first time he barked. Right after you said the word May.
Oh.
Maybe the dog had a prop bet that the professor didn't know about. Maybe.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I meant to point that out earlier, but you were on a heater, so I totally overlooked.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. Sometimes the Geritol kicks in late, so hell, I don't know what I'm doing. Y'all don't pay attention though. Papa, just stick me in the corner, put me a rocking chair and a shawl on.
I haven't taken my evening gummy yet, so I'm in good shape.
Steve wants us to hit 3 hours.
Oh, come on, man.
That's another 34 minutes?
Yeah, Dennis and I do that on Saturday morning when we're got coffeeed up and we can rock and roll. Joe's a family man, so he, his wife.
Well, no, I'm off. I don't have to work tomorrow, so
Oh, wow.
I just happen, but I do feel my eyelids getting heavy, but not like I said.
Joe, I've had a great time as usual, and I love to hear Dennis bouncing with somebody else other than me. It's good.
It's a nice little trio, like you said. We
got
really common sense. We got common sense. We got the data. We got the data guy. We got the data guy. We got the convert the data guy, and then we got the common sense guy.
I like the common sense. That's the frosting, Joe. Believe it or not,
it's the gel.
That's what sweetens it up. That's the racetrack. It's like that third or fourth horse in your trifecta box. That long shot that sweetens up that price. That's what we're looking for.
I have never been accused and never will be accused as the common sense guy. So, Joe, we need you.
Yeah. Dennis is not common sense. I can't figure out what he's doing half the time. At least that's what his wife says. She zooms me after, says, "Was he okay? Did he take his senility test?" You didn't know that I was testing you. I was testing you for facts and stuff and scoring you and sending it to your wife. We're plotting your decline in Alzheimer's. We're
checking on how much drool per minute comes.
That's right. So we're watching you, Dennis.
When you got to add the drool cup, like this, that's when it's
Joe. Great time. TSA is going to do good stuff, and I think we're going to kick butt for them if people would pay attention on the Discord and whatnot. We're going to have fun.
You guys got to join the Discord. I mean, we're trying to get that going right now. I mean, it's tough.
It's just kind of cranked up slow. Yeah.
Yeah, that takes a while to get going. You know what I mean? We have to get everybody to be committed to it, and engaging with everybody. Right now it's hard
like it.
because we're still trying to sift out the bots. So we don't know if we're talking to real people. And then you get
Oh,
those
y'all
that jump in and start offering
think I'm
their
real?
picks.
No, I'm AI. There's nothing real about me anymore. Yeah.
So, but yeah.
I'm definitely
Steve,
AI.
there's a guy we haven't talked about, Tank Dell, a forgotten
Hank
name.
Dell.
Yeah, I
I have not done my wide receivers yet, Dennis. Have you for your MVP
yeah,
for Tank Dell?
Tank Dell's a guy that I just don't see getting a lot of traction this year um, because of Higgins and Knoll to go at Collins. That gives them a pretty good trio of wide receivers. So, if Tank Dell is able to come back, and I hope he can because he's an exciting player, but he's had some very serious injuries. I think he's more of a return threat guy for them this year than anything else. I don't know if they're going to pass enough again to bring another body into the mix. And he had some pretty bad injuries. So, what an exciting player.
So my argument for that is Jalen Dole and Jaden Higgins. I mean, Jaden Higgins to a certain degree, but Jalen Dole really didn't get on the field a lot.
No. But that doesn't mean
mean,
he can't in year two. You know, that's I think he showed me enough in very limited play that I'm very intrigued by him. I will say this though, it is the last year of Dell's rookie contract. So, there's sometimes you see some pretty good things there, but his first season before he got hurt, he was at a 113 with the MVP index. That was eye-opening production, but I'm not so sure that we're going to see him bounce back and be the same player after the injury.
Steve says he's risky.
I'm looking at the FFPC. It's Collins, Higgins, Noel, Kirk, and Dell is the fifth guy. Round 20. He's a free square, if you like.
Yeah, him. And in best ball, you can do a lot worse in the 20th round.
The board I had up has him in round 14. So Steve's excited about round 14. He's definitely clicking on him.
You need to skedaddle over to FFPC because you can pick up Kurt or him for nothing. Last pick out the door.
Yeah, round 14, boy. I think there's going to be some other names on the board there. And probably going to be a running back for me at that point in the draft. But yeah, one hell of an exciting player when he was healthy. Those last two injuries he had, and the last injury he had was brutal. I don't know if he's going to be the same player when he comes back.
Nice. Steve, you got any more for us before we call
we should
it a
have
show?
him on,
right? He'll be on. He'll be on in a future episode for sure. Was another name we didn't mention? You got what do you guys think about year 2 Trey Harris?
For me, that's a very intriguing player. We didn't see enough to make a real guesstimate on what we can expect from him, but I like the opportunity. Keenan Allen's going to be gone, and he plays. He fits a role that I don't think either McConkey or QJ does with their route trees. Again, a lot of mouths to feed on that offense, assuming the Gadsden's the real deal.
Is third, Johnson at 10, Harris at 15. He's the third guy right now. Round 15.
I don't mind round 15 in best ball. Take a shot at him.
I like him. He's going to be one of my one of my mid to late round 15 even.
Nice.
I definitely like targeting him. I think he can outperform QJ as far as fantasy football goes.
Yeah, I think there's certainly the potential to do
So
that.
you get a healthy offensive line to give Herbert some time. You get that offense rolling with a good running game. You have Gadsden drawing coverage over the middle, and McConkey roams that part of the field too. I think there's gonna be a lot of man-to-man, one-on-one opportunities for Trey Harris.
I do like Quentin Johnson, though. I think he's a better player than a lot of folks give him credit for. Last year with my MVP index, I mean, it wasn't like he was one over the top great, but he was a 64, which
that's a 3-4 type.
That's a 3-4 type, but more importantly, it was a nice increase on what we've seen from him in the past. He went from a 0 as a rookie to a 50 to a 64. So that's the kind of trend, kind of movement I don't mind seeing. And I wouldn't be shocked to see him.
But round 10 seems a little high priced, Dennis.
Round 10, I still want guys that had MVP indexes over 70 last year. So, and I can still usually get that.
But what I'm saying, I would rather have Harris in round 15.
That's what I'm talking about.
If I'm going to invest, it seems Harris a little bit more of a bargain there.
Oh, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
Nice. What else? I think that's pretty much it. I think we're gonna call it a show, guys.
Okay, thank you, Joe.
I'm not seeing any other names really sticking out that we haven't.
We put everybody else to sleep, so.
and if I'm missing anybody, I'll save them for another show.
Okay. Joe, have us back. I'll update the charts and put them in Discord, and maybe another month or so we can come back and revisit, see if anything's happened. May not have anything, but we can see.
Yeah, we'll do it again in a few weeks.
Okay.
Want to thank everybody for tuning in, all the live listeners. If you're listening on Twitter, go just click over to YouTube and hit the like button for us. Help us out there. If you're not subscribed to the Sports Affiliation, you need to do that.
Follow these two guys on X and wherever else, Threads, wherever they're at. Follow them early and often, and all the TSA crew. They need to have a button, Joe, that people can hit, and everybody on TSA is followed.
Gets followed.
I don't know where that, follow them all.
You need a universal QR code or something.
Yeah, that's what we need. Tell them, make it happen.
Join the Discord. Follow Bear Fan Pete. Bear Fan Pete promotes everything for us
all the time. Thank you very much.
Pete Sandoval, he's the man.
I don't know you, but thank you.
No, Pete's a great dude. We've been talking a little bit more lately.
Maybe he could come to the expo. I'd love to meet.
Yeah. He missed last year. I'd love to see him out there this year, man. I'd love to meet Pete myself in person. Great guy.
That'd be great.
Follow him. He promotes all of our stuff. All of our shows.
He's got a lot of stuff. He likes sports cards. He likes. I mean, that man's into a lot of things. He's
He does the card breaks. He's not a bad fantasy football guy too, man. You get him on
he's
here.
Good at all
get him on here. You get him comfortable and you get him talking. You can spill some info.
Nice.
But yeah, and Greg Kellogg too. Greg does the Follow Fridays where he includes every single one of our names.
Yeah, Greg's pretty good, I guess.
we can't forget about Greg. But yeah, we're doing some good stuff all off season and leading up into draft season, and then of course
I'll be decorating Discord Joe, the best ball. I'll be sprinkling little tidbits of figures to keep everybody awake. So I promise you we'll do that. At least you'll see some of these things we're talking about here and help you
Oh
out.
yeah. I've checked them out. I just like to get you on here to explain it a little bit more too, and then you get me and Dennis kicking in our opinions.
Oh, yeah.
And you guys asking us the questions.
And I just like,
the information just flows better. So
okay, it does flows
because
downhill,
some
yeah.
people will look at that chart and even though it's
I
labeled, what am I
know.
looking at? They're looking at
Yeah,
colors and
that's okay. Yeah, that's
but yeah.
okay.
But all right.
That's okay.
So we're gonna close out.
Thank you, Joe.
Appreciate you guys coming on.
Woo woo.
We'll see
Always
you
a
all.
pleasure.
We'll see you all next time. Good night, everybody.
So long.